I don't think anything will ever change unless Mike Brown and the Blackburns are not at the helm. Well, the Bengals are not going to be making any changes as so it seems, even though they 100% need to and should, but leave it up to the Cincinnati Bengals to sit on their butts and do absolutely nothing. And so we are going to give our thoughts on the report that came out earlier today from Paul Danner Jr., who is a very trusted Bengals source on the state of the organization. Um, and before we dive in, make sure to like and subscribe to follow along with the badness that is the Bengals and our coverage. You know, we pretty much talk about the exact same thing majority of the time that we do this, because I feel like we can't say it enough, but obviously they're not listening. Um, but I'm just going to read some of the stuff that was reported this morning, and then we'll dive into all of the crap that has gone down within the last week.
Yeah.
So first off, majority of people in our comment section and Bengals fans alike think that Zach Taylor should be fired, should no longer be the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, all that good
Mhm.
stuff. But that will not be happening. He will not be getting fired, and it doesn't seem like that is even in the horizon, nor is even in the realm of possibilities. Because as of right now, they have the front office and Mike Brown, mainly Mike Brown, has
Mhm.
full confidence in Zach Taylor that he is, you know, the coach to lead this team to back to the Super Bowl and lead this team to where they should be. And a main reason for why he is not going to get fired is because he signed a 5-year extension following the Super Bowl season in 2021, which makes total sense. You know, we had just came off of being in the Super Bowl, so, you know, odds are you're probably going to re-sign the coach that got you there. But the interesting one to me is after reaching the AFC Championship game in 2022, he signed another 5-year extension, extending him from so his first extension he would have had one more year left in his contract, and his contract would have
Mhm.
been up in 2026. Which, if you know anything about the Bengals, they very rarely fire coaches during their contract, so
Yeah.
that would give them an out, you know, to move on from Zach Taylor. But because they extended him again in 2022, he now is under contract till 2027. But the interesting thing is, nobody knew about the second 5-year extension. Not even
Yeah,
like
I didn't.
Bengals beat reporters extremely close to the team. They had no idea that he re-signed for another year until this morning. So that's weird. So before we talk about the rest of the stuff, what do you think of the Zach Taylor side of all of this?
I mean, I do think it's kind of weird that that he re-signed another 5-year or another like year or whatever extension in 2022 without that ever being public. I think that's a little odd. Um you know, like you just said, I didn't know about that till this morning, and neither did anybody else, I guess. But you know, I think it's kind of I've defended Zach Taylor a lot. And I just don't really know what to think. Because I mean, obviously, you know, our offense really hasn't been that bad even this year, outside of you know, a handful of
Sunday.
games. Yeah. And the Jake Browning games. But I
Yeah.
mean, and Zach Taylor calls the offense. So I mean, I'm like, okay, you know, I don't know. We've talked about Zach Taylor at length in multiple of our other episodes, and so obviously I've made it clear that I have, you know, just kind of I have some complaints about our offense. I just don't. I'm not a big fan of it, like schematically. Um, I don't think we run the ball enough, and I don't think like we don't run the ball effectively enough, and we also just don't run the ball enough. You know, and I think that's a huge problem. Um, so I have complaints about Zach Taylor in that sense. Um, but well, and I guess also, you know, recent weeks it's almost just kind of seemed like we're just dead, like there's just no spark, blah blah blah. That I feel like usually you see that towards the end of a coach's tenure, like, and then a new guy comes in and the spark's back. Um, so I don't know. There's all that going against him. But you've also got your franchise quarterback sitting on the stage week in and week out saying that he has full trust in Zach Taylor. Um, and Zach Taylor has had success with us. He has. It was 5 years ago, but he has done it before. So that just kind of leads me to believe, um, maybe if we could actually get him some players that are worth anything, then maybe he could do it again. Um, and also not as much on Zach Taylor, but just coaching in general. Like, I realize the Colts have fallen off in recent weeks, but either way, Lou Anarumo has went to the Colts, and the Colts have a decent defense. Like I said, they've fallen off in recent weeks. They've had some rough games recently, but the Colts, all in all, have still had a heck of a year, and their defense has been a big part of that. I mean, they just held the Seahawks to 16 points, and I'm pretty sure they only scored one touchdown. The rest of
Yeah.
that was all field goals. And this is, I mean, outside of the Rams, this is maybe the best team in football right now. And I think you can make an argument that the Seahawks are the best offense in football right now. And this Lou Anarumo led Colts defense held them to one touchdown and a couple field goals. So I just have a really hard, and I mean, even if you look at what Lou Anarumo did in his tenure with the Bengals when we actually had like talent on defense, like good players. I mean, the Super Bowl run and then the AFC Championship run, our defense was top 10 in the NFL both of those years. So I just don't, I'm I I'm defending Lou Anarumo, but I'm also just defending like coaching in general because like the coach can only do so much with the hand he's dealt. And clearly the hand that Zach Taylor has right now is not good. The Bengals defense is terrible. And if I was not a Bengals fan, I could name you probably one player on this entire defense. Maybe not even any outside of Trey Hendrickson, to be full on honest with you. So basically, that's just saying we don't have anybody on defense. So I don't know that you can really blame Al Golden and Zach Taylor all that much when we have literally nothing to work with. You know, like I, it's just hard. I mean, and on the other side of that coin, in the NFL, the talent margin is a lot thinner in the NFL. So it's like, okay, the Bengals are god awful, but they still do have some talent. So maybe the other side of that coin is you get a different coach in there that maybe has a more effective scheme and they can at least get the job done with the players they have. I don't know. There's always that flip side of the coin. But either way, I think people are too fast to jump on the coaching. And especially I think you need to look at what we have. Because I mean, really, outside of Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Chase Brown, and then like Mike Gesicki. What's on this team? I mean, I guess our tackles are fine. Everything that I just said is offense, though. Like like we have nothing on defense. So that's my defense of that's my long-winded defense of the coaching staff. But I do also see where people are coming from. Where putting 0 points up, that's unacceptable. I mean, this is a team that we just beat 2 weeks prior by 15 points on Thanksgiving night at their place, literally 2 weeks ago. So, and there's a bunch of other stuff. I guess there's game management stuff. I don't personally think Zach Taylor is aggressive enough. I think that he needs to go for it on fourth down more, just be more aggressive, go for it in the red zone more. But that's just, there's always tweaks, there's always complaints about every coach. But I just, I think my take on it is I think people are too quick to hop on the fire the coach train. Like as soon as the team starts playing bad, oh, it's the coach's fault, fire him. Well, that's not always the case. Sometimes it is, like Brandon Staley and the Chargers, 100% coaching. Jim Harbaugh came in the very next season and they made the playoffs. So we know that. But I just don't know if that's fully the case with this Bengals team. Um, I don't know. I think that there's deeper issues on this team than just coaching. With all that being said, though, if the Bengals were to actually make a move and fire Zach Taylor, which I guarantee you they're not going to, I guarantee you they won't. But if they would, and they went out and hired Joe Brady, Bills offensive coordinator, or Brian Flores, is he the Vikings DC? I think that's his
Yeah,
name. If they
yeah.
were to go out and hire either one of those two guys, I would not complain at all. Um, so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of on the fence with Zach Taylor. I'm like, okay, I see the merit of firing him. I get what you're saying. I do think that there's definitely some stuff where it's like, that's not good. But I do also think that, I mean, we have some of the worst players in the NFL on our football team. I mean, you can go look at the stats, and the stats will back that claim up. We quite literally have some of the worst players in the NFL at their respective positions on defense. Literally do. The stats will back it up. So I just don't know that you can expect coaches to, you know, magically have a decent defense and a decent offense when you've got guys that are literally the last and second to last ranked players in the entire NFL at their positions, you know? So that's my thought on the coaching. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said. My, you know, cons for Zach Taylor is, you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, who are at the top of their respective positions. And I know there's, a lot more to a football team than just two players, but,
Hmm.
and you are going into what, year three, year 3 years without being in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Um, and that's, I mean, we'll talk about it later. That's not all on coaching, but I've always said this is a what have you done for me now league, and what Zach Taylor and the Bengals have done recently is miss playoffs, which should be inexcusable with Joe Burrow at the helm, and I know he's been injured for basically two of those seasons, but um, I feel like with majority of other organizations, we'd be having the conversation like, oh, definitely on the hot seat. Odds are it's going to be fired, all that other stuff. But with the Bengals, that's just not how they operate. And so with him being under contract till 27, it would be hard for me to believe at this point that he's not going to be there until the full length of that contract. Um,
Hmm.
and so it's that, and I do think that like you mentioned it earlier, that the locker room seems kind of lost, and I know it's just because you're
Yeah.
losing a lot, but I think when you have your quarterback making the cryptic comments that he made this past week, if I'm Mike Brown, that should scare me so much, and that should make me reevaluate everything from head to toe, which doesn't sound like it's happening. But
Yeah.
so I would be saying, okay, is this the right coach for this team? And James Rapien, who is the guy that we look at a lot of his stuff. He's one of the most respected beat writers. He wrote an article this morning,
Hmm.
and made a video this morning talking about what we're talking about right now. And he said his philosophy is, if he was Mike Brown, you look at Duke Tobin, you look at Zach Taylor, you look at all of these guys, and you're like, is this the person who's going to win us the Super Bowl? Is this the coach who's going to win us the Super Bowl? Is this the
Hmm.
general manager who's going to win us the Super Bowl? And if the answer is maybe or no, then he can't be there. And so I think when you have, Joe Burrow, that's the mindset you have to have. And
Hmm.
especially, with the comments that he just made of, he's not having fun anymore, and people are taking it that he wants out of Cincinnati, all this stuff. If
Yeah.
I'm Mike Brown, if I'm Zach Taylor, that should scare me so much. But I think a big reason why Zach Taylor still has his job is because him and Joe Burrow have a very good relationship, and Joe has publicly backed Zach Taylor time and time again, even
Hmm.
when all of the outside noise has said fire him. I think pretty much every day of this season, I've seen a comment that says fire Zach Taylor. Um, and so he's got that going for him. And like you said, he does call a very good offense. The offense, when they're all healthy, has been, one of the best in the NFL, barring obviously Sunday, but his side of the ball, he for the most part, he's taking care of. It's the defense and everything. But I also just think my reason for, getting rid of him would be is it's just I feel like right now we have kind of a losing culture from, top to bottom, which we've
Yeah,
had for a
ever.
long time. Um, but like I feel like you would need a guy to come in and kind of like you said, like rejolt this locker room, rejolt this franchise, bring a new culture, kind of how Dan Campbell did with the Lions, or
Mhm.
how Mike Vrabel's immediately turned around the Patriots, Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers. Like these guys come in, they win, they change the program's culture. And I think Zach's a great play caller, and I think he's a good guy, but I question sometimes if he is that type of culture building person, if he just if that if because I just don't think that's genuinely his personality. But I would. It is a little surprising that there's not even it's not even entered their minds to even like have discussions about moving on from Zach Taylor. Um, it was a long shot that they were going to fire him, but for them to basically being said, it hasn't even entered our mind that we're going to move on from him. I think it's a little weird because, like I mentioned, right now we're what are we 4-9 or something, 4-10.
Yeah.
Um, and we're sitting at a top 10 pick, and you know Joe Burrow just turned 29, and it's your third straight season basically thrown down the drain. And so I think if I was Mike Brown, I would look at that and be like, all right, well, I think we have to reevaluate some things, but it doesn't sound like that's happening. But I think the Zach. I'm more on the side of moving on from Zach, but obviously that's not going to happen. So my opinion doesn't matter. Um, but uh, but I mean, yeah, I think he's a good offensive coach, but
Mhm.
I just question his ability to lead a culture. But
Okay.
obviously, the Bengals have had a losing culture from the time they were conceived as a franchise. And a main part of that is because of A, Mike Brown, and B, Duke Tobin, who also is not going anywhere. In the report that Paul Danner said, he said Duke Tobin is viewed as family in nearly the same regard as the actual Browns and Blackburns. There is zero thought that his job is in jeopardy, which
0.
should baffle me, but at this point, nothing surprises me.
Mhm.
But we've read his draft history countless times.
Mhm.
And that's one of the main reasons why this defense is so bad is because they just constantly whiff on draft picks. And that's like the main thing that Duke Tobin does is do the draft. He doesn't do contracts. Katie Blackburn does that. She's another problem. There's the everything's spread out, which is a problem in and of itself. And there's also like four of them in the front office, which is also a problem.
Yeah, that's another one.
Um, but you would think of Duke Tobin's previous, at least draft record, would maybe bring in some concerns that, oh, maybe this guy isn't good at his job. And he's been here since, like, when did
The
he? I think he,
90s, right?
yeah, but I think he like started fully taking control. I think around like 2009,
Okay.
2010.
So
And
way, way too long.
what we've been to the playoffs, what, won a playoff game, what, three times, like
His GM tenure.
been to the playoffs and won at least one playoff game. I think has happened. Maybe it's only happened twice.
I think it's only happened
I think it's only
twice.
happened twice. Yeah. So it's like any other place that you'd be long gone, but him and Mike Brown are like this basically. And so they're family. So it's a whole mess. We talk at length about how horrible the front office is from top to bottom, but Um, I know you have a lot to say, but what were your reactions to them basically saying there is an absolutely 0% chance that Duke Tobin will be moved on from in the near future, and it doesn't sound like Mike Brown is planning on making any changes in the front office.
I mean, it's just like you're just accepting being a losing franchise. Like that's what you're doing, you know? I mean, you laid it out pretty pretty upfront there. I mean, Duke Tobin's been GM for 16, 17 years around that time, and we have, like you said, made the playoffs 2, 3 times in that time span and won 3 games. So, I mean, it's just I I don't even really know what to say, you know? I mean, like, we've said everything there is to say, and like you said, I laughed at it, but it's true. Art opinion does not matter because, I mean, these guys are just morons, and they
And
just
they
don't
obviously don't listen to outside noise.
know. I mean, they don't listen. They don't even like. I mean, if they even had any sense at all, they could just look at any of the other 31 teams and be like, "Oh crap, maybe we're not doing what needs to be done," you know, but they don't even have the sense to do that. Um yeah, I mean, I really don't have much else to say, really. I mean, it's just it's extremely disappointing the level of incompetence that this franchise has from top to bottom. I mean, it's just uh, I cannot imagine being a player or a coach in this franchise. Like I just can't imagine the frustrations that would come from playing and coaching for this franchise because you get nothing from the front office. Like you are pretty much being set up for failure from day one you step in this building as a player or a coach because that front office is going to give you nothing. They're actually going to maybe hurt your team like we just saw over the past 3 years. We watched this front office deconstruct a Super Bowl level roster right before our eyes by their own hands over the last 3 years. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. They deconstructed their own team, and it's terrible. They're awful now. So I just we have spoken at length about the front office, and I don't know that I have enough bad things to say about this front office. Um,
We might be here for a while.
yeah, I mean, I could just, I guess to flip that around, I don't know if I have one good thing to say. I don't think there's any bright side to this front office. I don't think they do one thing well in that front office. Not one, not a one. I think everything they do from top to bottom is just despicable and completely bottom tier. Um, they don't do anything well. They don't draft well. They don't scout well. They don't financially they don't do well. They don't pay their players. They don't treat their players well. They don't treat the players' families well. They don't treat their coaches well, obviously, because look at Zach Taylor's getting all this hate. And I'm telling you, I think 65 to 70% of this goes on the front office. I really do believe that. And I understand what you say. Like I said, I if we fired him and we hired one of those two guys I named, I wouldn't be mad. But I still don't think that it's like,
He's not the root problem.
yes, that's it. Like if we fire him and we bring somebody else in, I don't think you're going to see that significant of a change, Because what you said was you talked about the Lions. The Lions made changes.
Started drafting good.
Yeah. So the Lions brought in a coach that completely changed the culture. And with him, he brought an OC and a DC that were top tier at their jobs, both of which are head coaches now. One of them's having success, the other one's on the Jets, but but like so they brought in the staff that could change the culture and was top tier at their jobs. But along with that, they drafted well. And that's the biggest thing. They drafted well and they hit free agency well. Those are the two keys that really made this team. Okay. And now you look and you've got an NFC juggernaut who they're having a bit of an off year this year, but they're still squarely in the playoff race. And the Lions are a very good football team. Um, so my thing is like, if you fire Zach Taylor and you clean house on the coaching staff, anybody you bring, you could bring in the Dan Campbell and the Ben Johnson and the Aaron Glenn, and you're still going to probably end up having, I don't know. I mean, you might have,
Might be a little bit better.
yeah. I mean, you might make the playoffs, but
But are they gonna be Super Bowl contenders? Probably not.
I don't think so because it still goes back to the players that you have in the field, you know? So, and that is on the front office. And we have talked about that so much. And it's really, really hard to support this team because this team is literally just accepting failure. Like there is so clearly a problem that just needs to be fixed now. Actually, it needed to be fixed 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, even. And they like you would have to be an idiot to not see that there's a problem. So I know they're seeing there's a problem. We are 4-10 right now, or whatever the heck we are. That's a problem. So I know they're seeing there's a problem. They're just not fixing it. And that's why it's like it is hard to support this team because like, we are never going to get any better because they won't fix the problems. I mean, I we know what has to be done. Duke Tobin has to be fired. Duke Tobin should not have stepped foot in this building probably 8 years ago. Duke Tobin should probably not have a job in the National Football League. He has to go now. The entire scouting department exiled. The entire scouting department has to go. And we have to go out there and hire a real scouting department. Like 10 to 15 scouts, not 3 or 4. Like I that's what needs to be done, right? And Duke Tobin's the problem. Katie Blackburn's the problem. The scouting department's the problem. Mike Brown's the problem. There's so many different problems before you even get to the football side of this franchise, right? Like you can say all you want about Zach Taylor and Al Golden and just any other coach on this staff, but there is so many problems that need to be fixed before anything else is going to get better, before you even get to the football side of this business. Like I would say 80 to 90% of the problems in this franchise are the front office side. Not even like 80 to 90% of these issues before you even get to the football side of the franchise, before you get to the coaching staff and the players. Well, okay, the defensive players suck, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Like you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The root cause of this issue is the GM, the ownership, and the scouting department. Two of those things can change. Well, all three of them can change. One of them definitely won't because they aren't going to sell the team. But two of those things can change and should change. But because, like you said, Duke Tobin is apparently, buddy buddy with Mike Brown, that's not going to change. And they won't address the scouting department. It's just like it's really hard to support this team.
Yeah.
That's all I've got to say. I mean, I I want to say that I am mind blown by seeing that news this morning that there is a 0% chance that they're going to make any changes. I want to say I'm mind blown, but I'm not. I'm not at all. I'm not surprised at all. I told you, we and, the guys talk about this in our group chats, and I have told you all along, we're not going to change anything. We are going to probably end up running it back for the fourth straight year. We won't make any changes because that's just not what we do. So I'm not surprised in the slightest about this news, but it is very frustrating. And I mean, really, what it is, this is the best way to put it. This is the best way to put our franchise. Anything else that I have just said, the last 20 minutes that I've been ranting, you can throw it all out. This right here, okay? This front office spits in the face of their players, their coaches, and their fans. On a year in and year out basis, this front office just spits in the face of players, coaches, and fans. Because these players and these coaches and these fans want to win so bad. I guarantee you that. Whether or not Zach Taylor's the guy that to win us a Super Bowl, that's your opinion. That's my opinion. Either way, I can guarantee you he wants to win. And Joe Burrow wants to win. Jamar Chase wants to win. The fans, they want to win. It's frustrating for all of those people groups. And this front office just won't fix what needs to be fixed. So they are just spitting in the face of these people that want to win football games. And beyond even the football, I mean, you look at the game on Sunday in Cincinnati when it snowed like a freaking son of a gun, and they didn't clean the stands. Like, they didn't bring in people to clean the stands out. So all these thousands of fans are walking in and sitting in a pile of snow. I mean, you're not going to clean that. You're
And
not
they're
going to.
supporting a 4-win football team.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's even better point. These fans are coming out to watch a team that won 4 games, and you can't even clean their seats off after a blizzard, essentially. Not only that, the food service that they offer these players is garbage. The facilities are garbage. The way they treat the families of the players and the coaches is garbage, right? Like, hasn't there been stuff that's come out to where they don't even offer box seats or whatever?
Yeah, or they won't even pay for players' plane to come
Yeah,
in
yeah.
to or stuff like that.
It's like, this is just like bare minimum stuff that every other franchise does. I don't care what you say. The Cleveland Browns do this stuff. Like, this is just bare minimum stuff. I don't get it. So that's why I say they spit in the face of their players, their coaches, and their fans because number one, they aren't willing to fix the problems to win. But number two, they don't treat these people right at all. They don't treat their players, their coaches, or their fans right, just in the sense of mere like, hey, clean off the seats for these fans that are paying $100 to come watch your garbage product. You know, like and and for these players that put in all this work and time and effort to go out there and to win, and you're not going to give them the tools that they need to get them to win, your facilities suck. You're not taking care of their families. You're not feeding them over the summer during training camps and stuff. You're not feeding them worth of crap. I'm pretty sure I've seen something that said that that the Bengals don't offer daycare for the parents or for the players' kids. Like, this is like what, like what are we doing? Like, these guys, these owners just do not care. They don't care at all. That's what I got to say. And I know I strayed from the whole Duke Tobin thing and I went on my rant, but that's what I've got to say. To bring it all back around, Duke Tobin should have been gone a long time ago.
Yeah. No, I mean, you made, a very good point. They spit in the face of their fans, their players, and their coaches. And it's bad when, we're sitting here, fans like us are sitting here, and they're like, I'm not surprised that they're not doing anything. I'm
Oh,
not
here.
surprised. And then the amount of times that former players have came out and been like, yeah, that's the worst organization in football. They're
Andrew
like,
Whitworth,
they're
Carson
terrible.
Palmer.
Like Carson Palmer he was like, I'm retiring because this sucks so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And even like Zach Moss just came on Twitter a couple days ago and is like, yeah, that's the worst organization in all of sports. And it's like
Andrew Whitworth has said that. They've talked
yeah,
about like on the Thursday night crew, they've talked about the Bengals. They said, hey, like, do they need to fire Duke Tobin? Do they need to fire Zach Taylor? Blah, blah, blah. Andrew Whitworth has literally came out and said, like, whether or not they should or shouldn't, I don't know, but I can tell you they won't because that's just not how the Bengals do business. And he
yeah,
has said that on national TV on Thursday Night Football, and he is a Hall of Fame offensive lineman that played for us for like 10 years. I mean, it's
yeah.
it's just bare minimum.
Yeah, when you have former players calling out your franchise, calling out your ownership, like that should, like if I was an owner or if I was in that front office, like I would take that stuff to heart, because those are the
Mhm.
guys that pay all this money for and everything, and you're doing them a disservice by not putting, you know, giving them the best chance to win, like you were mentioning. But I think, you know, they asked Joe Burrow about it, and, he's never gonna throw anybody under the bus, but he was like,
He won't do.
they work hard, and I was like, "Well, they should work hard. Every person in every front office in the National Football League works hard, I guarantee you that. Now,
Yeah.
if they work hard, that doesn't mean that they're good, and they're
Yeah.
not good. They can work as hard as they want, but if they suck, they suck, you know?"
Mhm.
And it's like I genuinely feel unless Joe Burrow walks into Mike Brown's office and says, "Here are my lists of demands, or I'm gone," nothing will ever change.
I
You
don't
know,
even know if it would change if he did that. I
that
really
would
don't.
put them I mean, I feel like that would put as much pressure as humanly possible
I mean,
because
because did
he's
Carson Palmer not do something similar? I mean, Carson Palmer ended up demanding a trade and retiring. Well, he
well,
didn't
yes,
do it with the
but
Cardinals, but, like,
Joe Burrow is the Joe Burrow is the best player to step foot in this facility for this franchise,
yes,
and
he is,
and
but,
if and if he I mean, you think of, like, not even the football aspect. If Joe Burrow leaves this team, you're losing thousands of tens of thousands of fans. You're
yeah.
losing so much money. Like, he is the only thing keeping this franchise alive. He's really the only thing keeping the city of Cincinnati alive, you know? It's not like the Reds have given us any hope, or,
Yeah.
nobody, so it's like the only reason why. And we've been to Bengals games before Joe Burrow. We went to a couple, and we've been to a
Mhm.
bunch since Joe Burrow. And it's a night and day difference, the amount, like, the atmosphere when Joe Burrow is on the field.
Yes.
Like, even like going back to Sunday, the only way you get people to come out in the freezing cold snow for a 4-win team is because they have a guy named Joe Burrow. And so I do think if he were to walk in there and demand, I think that would hold a lot of weight, but he's
Mhm.
probably not going to do that. And I mean, we talked about this when he made his comments earlier. I was saying I was kind of hopeful that he's not going to ask for a trade or anything. But now I'm sitting here and I'm reading this stuff, and I mean I think he's sitting here and he's like, I'm 29 years old, and I like the franchise hasn't told me anything or given me any signs that anything's going to get better. They're
Mhm.
not making changes. Like you said, they're just going to run it back for a fourth straight season. And, I have all these injuries, so I'm not even guaranteed my next game,
Mhm.
first off. And now that I'm 29 years old, you know, not that he's going out of his prime, but, it's shorter than it was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's sitting here and he's like, I mean, heck, like last year, played best I've ever played phenomenally, should have won the MVP, but because the team sucked and they were 9-8, he did it. And
Mhm.
and then what does the front office do to fix that? They
Nothing.
bring in two backups on defense and basically spend the entire summer twiddling their thumbs to get T. Jamar and Trey Hendrickson done. And Trey Hendrickson, mind you, will not be on this team next year. He
No.
will not. He has not played at all this year, and you pretty much just gave him the middle finger in during the preseason. And I said that when that happened, I said, if I'm Trey Hendrickson, I'm taking that as, okay, you don't value me, I'm gone. So
Yeah, no, he's
that's another thing. Trey Hendrickson, multiple 17 and a half sacks years, whatever, leading sack guy, and you kind of just be like, hey, goodbye.
yeah,
They did
no,
that
he
to
will not
DJ
be a
Reader. They
Bengal.
did that to Jesse Bates.
Mhm.
They did that to all of these guys, all these core guys on defense. They basically just said, well, thanks for your service, but we're good. Like, we don't value you that much.
Mhm.
And so I genuinely think, and it's tough to say this, but I don't think anything will ever change unless Mike Brown and the Blackburns are not at the helm.
I agree
And
completely.
and them not being at the helm means that, the team might not be in Cincinnati. That was a conversation that happened over the summer.
Yeah.
But, like, genuinely, I mean, Mike Brown is probably, like, as heavily involved, if not slightly less than Jerry Jones is. And we've seen how Jerry Jones has done business. And I think you would agree with me that when owners are too involved, that's not good.
Yes.
And I mean, not to mention he's like 95 or something.
Yeah.
Um, and then I mean, not even taking into account Duke Tobin, who has been here for way too long, and really outside of like the 2020 draft class, where he got, Logan Wilson, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, and then the draft choice of Jamar Chase pretty much has been majority of misses throughout the rest of those years.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, I've never seen, and I agree that I've never seen a Super Bowl team, a Super Bowl window, basically just get shut or destroyed as quickly as it did with the Bengals. This we should be in the best era of Bengals football. With Joe Burrow, with Jamar Chase, with T Higgins. We should be in the playoffs every single year. We should be fighting for AFC championships, fighting for Super Bowls, and it feels like ages ago since we went to the Super Bowl. I know it was only 4 or 5 years ago, but it feels like so long ago that we've been to the Super Bowl. But I think in the front office, they're like, hey, we were just in the Super Bowl not that long ago. We don't really need to change anything. It's like, dude, that was 4 or 5 years ago. The team looks drastically different since then. I
Yeah.
think there's only
Yeah.
like 3 players still on the team that was
Yeah.
on that team, and that's Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins.
Yeah. It's a completely different team now.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, obviously something's not working because you went 9-8, 9-8, and now you're at best, I think, going to win 6 games. And
Mhm.
you can blame it on Joe Burrow's not healthy, but when you're when you win 3 games in 3 years without Joe Burrow, that's a problem. You
Yeah,
know,
that's
and I
bad.
I know Joe Burrow is this. I mean, he's an elite quarterback, and I don't want to hear anybody say he isn't.
Yeah.
He's an elite quarterback, but the amount of pressure, the amount of stuff that's put on his shoulders. He literally every day in and day out has to play a perfect game to give us a chance to win, a
Yeah.
chance to win.
Mhm.
And these last 2 games, he's made mistakes and we've lost, you know?
Yeah.
And so you look at it and it's just like, all right, like anybody else could tell you, all right, changes need to be made, you know? All 31 other franchises would probably say, yeah, if I were in that position, changes would be made, you know?
Yeah.
Like you said, even the Browns, who are the worst franchise pretty much ever, like they would make changes,
Mhm.
but their just refusal to do that, and they just like spit in the face of their fans and their players, and it's so frustrating that every time we do this, we talk about the same exact thing. Like I don't want to talk about it anymore,
Yeah.
but until they change something, we have. I mean, we have to,
There's nothing really
and
new to talk about. I
yeah, I mean,
mean,
it's not like we're playing well,
yeah, no, there's
like
nothing new to talk about.
so it's just like you said, it's really hard to be a fan right now, and it's really frustrating just to see this team just basically being like, yeah, we're totally fine with being a losing franchise. Like that's a losing mindset that they have.
Yeah, and they're
And
fine
if
with it.
I mean, we very well could be sitting here this off season or in the next off season or two and be like, man, we really screwed that up.
Yeah.
We had like Joe Burrow is on the Rams or something winning Super Bowls,
Mhm.
and Jamar Chase is probably with them,
Yeah.
and we have these probably draft picks or whatever, but I don't feel confident about that.
Yeah, because 'cause we'll just whiff on them anyways.
Yeah, and we're like, wow, I mean, we really had like a window where we could have been, one of the best teams in the league, one of the best teams in the AFC, one of, the best teams in the history of this franchise, and we just pissed it away basically.
Yep.
And it's like, I don't want to get to that point, but I fear that we're getting closer to that every single week we go on. It's just we're getting closer to, I mean, I hope Burrow retires a Bengal. I would absolutely love that. I think he should, but
Mhm.
I mean, you have to do what's best for yourself. And if the front office is blatantly just saying, "Hey, we don't care about winning. We're not even going to try to win," like, then you have to do what you have to do. And I don't want that to come to that. But I mean, we
I
talk
think they
about
might be in the wrong business.
I think they are.
I just don't care about winning at all. Well, then why are you owning a football team?
Well, I do
Like,
think that they care about winning. I'm not going to say they don't care about winning.
it
I just
seems
think
like they don't.
it
It
seems
really
like they
does.
don't. Yeah, but I'm sure if you were to ask them, they're like, "Oh yeah, I absolutely care about winning." But here's just like so. We talk about the draft stuff all the time and how we suck at draft picks and stuff.
Mhm.
But another piece in building a team is free agency, and that goes on Katie Blackburn, and she
No.
is just as bad, if not worse, than Duke Tobin. And the sad thing is, well, not sad thing, but the thing is, once Mike Brown dies, which will probably happen sooner rather than later, she and her husband take that step as the owner.
Oh,
And
that's a
this
very
is
sad thing. That's
and
not
this
a good
is
thing at all.
no, and it's not like this is gonna be, maybe like the Colts were where the Jim Irsay's daughter took over and they looked good, now they kind
Oh,
of
no,
aren't,
that will
but
not be the case.
it's gonna be just as bad, if not worse.
100%, yeah.
And so I,
She
I
has
just
no
want
clue
to
what she's doing.
absolutely not, but I just want to read you. So since 2022, the track record of free agents that we have brought in, mind you, Cincinnati's never been a free agency destination, but you have a guy named Joe Burrow who will bring in a lot of people to play for.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to name you the names that we have signed since we went to the AFC Championship. Because before that, we brought in Trey Hendrickson,
We had a good free agency for
and
a
then
second there. What the heck happened?
like in 2021, we brought in Trey Hendrickson, we brought in Mike Hilton, we brought in Chidobe Awuzie. We brought in DJ Reader in 2020, Von Bell. Like we did solid there. And in 2022, we brought in Kappa, Hayden Hurst, Lael Collins, and Ted Karras. Well, realistically, only one of those really worked. For that 2022 season, you know, Kappa was good, but he's not on the team anymore. Lael Collins, I don't think really played. I think he was hurt. Hayden
Mhm.
Hurst on the team for 1 year, and Ted Karras is still there. So, out of one of four, pretty much one of four through that.
Mhm.
Then 2023, we spent a bunch of money on Orlando Brown, which I would say is a success for the most
Yes,
part.
that yes.
The rest of the deals was Tarnell Basham, don't know
Don't
who
even know
that
who that
is.
is.
Cody Ford, garbage. Sidney Jones, I don't think he ever played. Nick Scott, garbage. And Irv Smith, garbage. And then in 2024, all you do is re-sign or all you do is sign Mike Gesicki. And then in 2025, you sign Oren Burks, who was a backup linebacker for the Eagles. And mind you, he has a 35.4 PFF grade and is ranked 87th out of 88 linebackers. Then you bring in TJ Slayton, the defensive tackle, who has a 39.9 PFF grade and is ranked 120 out of 129 defensive tackles. Mind you, another backup for Green Bay. So that was their big defensive signings to really fix this defense. And Katie Blackburn probably, sat back, propped her foot up and said, I did pretty good. And
She
that's
probably did.
just objectively wrong. And we
Mhm.
we we literally said this, months ago when we were doing our season predictions. We're like, they didn't do anything. So
Mhm.
it's not, I mean, Al Golden's not a genius, he's not a wizard. He's not going to fix it immediately. And they didn't. And
Mhm.
even, I mean, Geno Stone, we paid Geno Stone a bunch of money. He's been pretty disappointing.
Mhm.
And then, they brought in Lucas Patrick, who I don't think has played for us really at all. You signed the only really good one you did was you signed Dalton Risner like a week before the season started.
Yeah.
Not to mention, you got the T. Higgins and Jamar Chase done. Good for you, but you did it way too late.
An entire season too late.
You could have saved so much money. And then rather than just extending Trey Hendrickson, you basically give him a pay raise, and now he's probably going to leave in free agency. And
Yeah.
so it's like, out of those 3 years, the only impact players that they brought in is maybe three. Maybe three
Yeah.
impact players. Not to mention, regardless of the people that they re-signed those years. But adding in talent, they brought in three new players that have made impacts or have been on the team longer than like a season. Like, heck, last year they brought in Zach Moss, garbage.
Mhm.
Um, Sheldon Rankins, garbage. Like, they whiffed on an entire class. For the last 2 seasons, they have whiffed on an entire free agency class. And
Yeah.
it's just like, I don't get why, like, how are you doing this? And it's like none of the guys that they signed, like, I was like, you know what? That's a home run free agency signing. Like, that guy's going to really affect our team. Like, I convince myself that they're going to help the team.
Yeah.
But I mean, Sheldon Rankins has had like an average NFL career at best.
Mhm.
Oren Burks, I had no idea who that was until we signed him. TJ Slayton also didn't know who it was until we signed him. But the thing is like we have money. We always have had money, you know?
Yeah,
Like I think we have another 70 million in cap or something this year.
I think
Like
we do. Yeah.
we have the money, but
Mhm.
there's just such cheapskates constantly that they
Mhm.
pinch for every little nickel and dime. Like you're
Mhm.
telling me we couldn't give Trey Hendrickson like 28, $30 million, and then like you were that was the only thing that was the holdup was the money. Like
Yes.
you had the years, you had everything. It was just the money.
Mhm.
Their refusal, and this has happened for years. Like when basically, if you want to play for the Bengals, you play until you're 30 years old, and then goodbye. You
Yeah.
never play. Like they very rarely hire people into their late 30s,
Yes.
and so and it's like these some of these guys are effective football players, like Andrew Whitworth,
Uh-huh.
and you just, I mean, and didn't Andrew Whitworth, he was on the team in 2020, went to the Rams in 2021, and then beat us in the Super Bowl. It was a big reason why they were good.
Yeah.
Like
He was a big part on that
he was a
team.
stable tackle,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's just mind boggling. We keep saying it every week, the level of incompetence that this front office has. Like, I mean, who? No wonder they have a losing football team. They whiff on every draft pick and they whiff on every free agency signing. That's never going to work.
Yeah,
And
and
so,
it's really like it's even worse when you've got like me and you and other guys like us, beat writers and just fans, I guess, that every single draft season comes along and we name five or so guys that are probably going to be there when we're picking, that we say these five or so guys would be really good additions for our team and they will probably be there when we pick. Draft day comes around, two or three of those guys that we name are there, and then they go and take a guy that we just don't really know, or a guy that we were like, no, like that's not a good pick. And they
yeah,
take that guy, and then when the season comes around, those two or three guys that were there that we said they should take end up playing well on the teams that took them. So it's like, I mean, how are these guys so terrible at their jobs when they've got guys like me and you that are sitting here doing this for free and would genuinely do a better job?
yeah.
Like it is like I don't understand how you can be so bad at your job to that point, you know?
Two of the three guys that we said they should draft are currently, or sorry, two of the five guys that we said in the draft the video that we made are right now second and third in defensive rookie of the year voting. Like it's
Shocker.
like James Pierce, the
Yep. He
Tennessee
was the guy
defensive end.
yep. Mm-hmm.
I know you loved him, and I ended up liking him too. I'm pretty sure he has had like 6 straight games with a sack,
Yep.
and he has like 8 or 9 sacks on the season.
Yep.
And
Jahad
it's
Campbell, the Bama
Yeah,
guy.
Jahad Campbell's up there. Nick Emenware, the safety from South Carolina,
Oh
like
yeah. Yep.
he was a guy that we talked about.
Yeah.
Even heck, Xavier Watts, who was like a third or fourth round pick, they
Yeah.
had him. They had the Al Golden connection. He was right there, and I'm pretty sure every single mock draft we did, we had him. We had us drafting him like the third round. It seems so
Second or third round,
obvious.
we did. And guess who we took in the second round instead? A guy that I have literally never heard of in my entire life. I had
Yeah,
I
we
had
took.
when I got the alert that said the Bengals drafted this guy, I was like, who in the world is that? And that was a second round pick.
Yeah,
A
well,
second
he's currently the 86th out of 88 ranked linebackers.
shocker. That's
And guess who?
very
And
surprising.
our fourth round pick is the 88th ranked linebacker.
Who did we pick in the third round this year?
That was Dylan Fairchild.
Okay.
He's 47 out of 78 guards, so
Okay,
he's
that was a
decent.
that was decent. But I mean, what are we doing in the second round? Like,
Well, I mean, not to mention we just cut Jermaine Burton, who was his third round pick, what, a year ago?
yeah, I mean, don't even get me started on how many picks
I
we've
mean,
literally thrown in the
that was
garbage. Jermaine
I
Burton,
that
Zachary
wasn't
Carter, a third
Yeah.
round pick from 2 or 3 years ago. They, that guy is not even in the NFL anymore. That was a third round pick.
Yeah, we just throw third round picks in the garbage.
What? These are starting caliber players that can make genuine franchise differences. Amon-Ra St. Brown was a third round pick. I think he was third or fourth. So
Yeah.
it's like we are just throwing away premium picks. And there are guys that are there that could seriously help us.
Yeah.
Like
Well, and it's like, like I've talked about like Joe Burrow and stuff. And, I'm sure he's sitting there and there's like, here's another god awful draft class. Like,
yeah.
let's hope that these guys work out. And, he has
And
to
guess what?
say,
They don't.
yeah, but he has to sit there and say, like, I think Demetrius Knight's a great player and I think he's going to be a good player for a football team. I think Shamar Stewart's going to be a good player for a football team. But
Lamar
they
Stewart
just,
haven't played 3/4 of the year.
yeah, he's been hurt. And when he's been in, he hasn't been great. I mean, that started off as a disaster. He didn't even sign his contract for like 2 months because again, money. It's
yeah.
ridiculous.
I,
But yeah, it's just like I don't want to make a case for Joe Burrow to leave, but I
the
feel
case
like
doesn't
he's.
have to be made. It's already
I
made.
know. I feel like he's sitting on his couch and he's just like, another bad draft class, another bad free agency class. Like I have to put this entire team on my back, and I just got hurt again. It's
Like,
like, what's the point of,
I mean,
playing for this team?
as much as it pains me to say, I really wouldn't be surprised if we hear that he requests a trade, not demands a trade this offseason, next offseason. I mean, I really think that is a real possibility that is coming. I mean,
Yeah.
we are just. I don't think I've ever seen a more mismanaged franchise. I don't think I have. I really don't. I would genuinely take the Browns front office over ours. I really would. And that is, I know that people would be like, oh, dude, that's outrageous. The Browns are the worst ever. I don't, I think the Bengals
It's
might
not
really
too
be
far
worse.
off. Yeah.
I mean, I really think they might be worse.
Yeah. Well, I just think like with the comments that Burrow made, that should that should to everybody in the front office, to the entire coaching staff, that should be like, oh crap. Like
Yeah.
we have to get our stuff together now or we're going to lose the best player in franchise history, Like
No.
that should have scared them so much when they read all of the stuff that he said, when they read that everybody was saying he should be traded, all this stuff.
And then a
That should
week later, they say we're not making any changes.
Yeah, that I know it's ridiculous, but that should have genuinely scared them so much to be like, okay, we have to make changes. Something has to change. We have to do everything we can to not lose this guy, not make this guy retire early, whatever. Like we have to do all we can. But the funny thing is, they've been down this road before. They did
Mm-hmm.
this with another quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, oh, we've never been in this situation before. We don't know how to handle it. You've done it before and you handled it poorly. Learn from that mistake and handle it correctly with a much, much better quarterback. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I mean, the guy, we went to a Super Bowl and an AFC championship not even 3 or 4 years ago, like
Mm-hmm.
that could still happen if the
Yeah.
front office just woke up and figured out, okay, well, so 9-8 missed playoffs, 9-8 missed playoffs, 4-10 missed playoffs. I think something should probably change. Oh, and also our franchise quarterback is like low key saying he's either going to retire early or demand a trade.
Yeah.
Like if that doesn't say, oh crap, like changes need to be made, then I don't know what will. And
I
so
don't think
you
anything
would
will.
you would think that stuff would happen and they would at least like not the thing that blows my mind is not the fact they're just not doing it, the fact that they're like, we're not even going to have a conversation about it,
Yeah.
then like
Yeah.
we're not even going to have a conversation about moving on from Duke Tober, not even going to have a conversation about moving on from Zach Taylor. Like how dumb do you have to be to just not even entertain the thought of it? And I know they don't care what any of us outsiders have to say. They have brick walls up, whatever. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear to see that A, they're not a good football team, and B, they haven't been a good football team in 3 seasons. Joe
Mhm.
even said it. He said, right now, we're not a good football team. We haven't been a good football team. And I have
Yeah.
a video of him from last year saying, we're not a good football team. We're not a championship level football team. But they
Yeah.
sit here and they're like, you know what? We're just going to run it back. You know, we have the guys in the locker room, in the facility that can get the job done and win the Super Bowl. And I'm like, well, I haven't seen it. You haven't shown
Yeah.
me any inkling of like,
Are they in the locker
yeah,
room still,
are
or
we
like
are
what?
we talking about the same people? Like you
Yeah.
haven't showed me you haven't showed it. Like it would be different if, you know, oh, we went to the playoffs, we were like a first round exit, or, you know, we won 2 games, lost in the championship or whatever. Like we haven't made the playoffs in 3 seasons with
Yeah.
Joe Burrow as our quarterback. Like
Mhm.
that should be
And
unacceptable.
Jamar Chase.
And Jamar Chase, I mean, last year should have been like, oh, dang, we just wasted 2 of the best seasons, A, in franchise history, B, of both of their careers.
Mhm.
Like that should have been the big headline, you know, lights flashing, whatever, to be like, oh shoot, we just like went 9-8 and Jamar Chase had the triple crown that only 7 other players have ever done. Joe Burrow threw for 40 touchdowns and what 5,000 yards. Like
Mhm.
we just cost that guy a MVP. Like we should probably do something about this and fix it. And they're like, all right, well, let's sign 3 players. Let's spend all summer re-signing the guy that just won the triple crown, and let's waste away all 7 of our draft picks. Sorry, 6, because you traded one during the season for Khalil Herbert. Like, what are we doing? Like, genuinely,
We also
like,
traded
like
Joe
we
Mixon for a 7th and Logan Wilson for a 7th.
yeah,
What?
like
What?
like
We're just
we
giving these guys away.
I know, like we joke that we could run the team better, but at some point, sometimes, like
I'm
today, I
joking.
genuinely think we can.
I'm not joking when I say that. I am fully confident that I can do a better job running this team. I am fully confident. This is not a joke. I'm not saying this in a
It's
joking
just,
manner.
it's just infuriating. Because, like I said, I don't. This team will never be good unless the Browns make a change, which they won't. They haven't made a change since they've taken over, which has been like 50 years or something.
Dude, it's just like the urge to just pull a Bruce Wayne and walk into that franchise and write the check and say, "I'm
Just buy
buying
it.
this franchise."
Yeah, we need
And
this
dude,
podcast to get a little bit bigger before we
what?
can do
Oh,
that.
dude, it's gotta get huge. We need like, yeah. But like, I'm telling you, man, I would walk in that door, I would hand them that check and say, "Out. There's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way. Let it hit you on the way out."
Yeah,
I would immediately fire Duke Tobin. I mean, I don't even know if I would. I I would sign that freaking check, hand it to him, pick up the phone, and call him and say, "Get out." I mean, I wouldn't even take a step in the building before I fire that guy. I would immediately fire the entire scouting department. Yeah, I think that would really solve most of the issues right there.
that would. But
Yeah,
the interesting thing is, you know, it's, I mean, I don't know how long Mike Brown's been been the owner. I think it's been a long time. Duke Tobin's
30
been the
years.
GM for a long time. Katie
Mhm.
Blackburn's been in her position for a long time. And, you
Yeah.
know, it's not like the Cowboys where, you know, Jerry Jones, you know, is kind of a lunatic at times and, you know, makes a lot of
Mhm,
bad decisions. But
mhm.
at least, you know, he can be like, I built a dynasty in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah.
You know, I won Super Bowls. The
Mhm.
Bengals didn't win a playoff game for what, 30 years? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And then you finally get the guy who wins it, and you just don't do anything to help him out 2 years later.
Yeah.
It's like these guys are acting like they've won something. They've been to Super Bowl 3 times and have lost all 3 times. They
Mhm.
didn't win a playoff game till for 30 something years. And then the guy who finally did it, they're going to waste his career away. And
Yep.
it's like, you got to be kidding. Like, you know, as Bengals fans, you know, we kind of sign up for our life just kind of sucking.
Yeah, you do.
But, you know, from 2021 to 2022, it was awesome. Like,
Oh, dude, that was the time of
you
our
know,
lives right there.
but that
Sports
feels
wise.
so long ago, and they just
Mhm.
stripped that from us.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, you have to think of it even from like a player's perspective, you know, coach perspective, but a fan's perspective, you know, like you're good people. Like if I was a season ticket holder, I'm not re-upping my season tickets to go watch this team. I'm not supporting this team. I don't know when the next time I'm going to pay tickets to go to a game. I went to a game this year
I don't
because they
even
were
know if I
free.
plan. I don't even know if I plan on watching another game this year. I mean,
Yeah,
seriously, I don't
exactly.
even know if I'm going to.
Yeah, I usually just
There's
turn
a
on Red
lot of
Zone at
things
this
I would
point.
rather do on Sundays than watch the Bengals at this point.
Yeah. So it's just like the product's not good. It hasn't been good in 3 years, and their solution is to do nothing. It's tiring, it's frustrating. We talk about it all the time. We've talked about it for an hour and 5 minutes today. And I'm sure we'll talk about it probably countlessly through the off season, as the
It'll be our
season
weekly
winds.
off-season video.
Yeah, as the season
At
winds
some point,
down,
we're gonna have to start talking about where we think Joe Burrow's gonna go.
I know I don't want to have that
But I'm
conversation,
telling you, he is gonna be the next Matt Stafford.
but we
He's either
might
gonna
have
be the
to.
next Andrew Luck or he's gonna be the next Matt Stafford. I don't think it's gonna be Andrew Luck. I think it's gonna be Matt Stafford. I think he's gonna
Yeah,
go somewhere else, and I think he's gonna win a Super Bowl somewhere else.
yeah, I
But that's just
unfortunately
my opinion.
agree, but there's still 3 games left in the season. The
Well,
season's over, but there's still 3 games left in the season, and we're having this conversation in the beginning of 2 weeks into December, when the football season technically doesn't end for another 2 months.
it doesn't end until February.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been in off season mode since week 8.
Oh
like
yeah.
we've
Yeah.
been
We
we've
were
been in off
we
season.
did a
Like
mock draft on here
I
two
know,
months ago.
I know. Like I'm at this point, I'm rooting for them to lose because that
Yeah.
gives us a better chance to hopefully not screw it up. But we will. But it's
In
just
some
and
way or
in
another we
this,
will.
it's just an endless cycle of just bad, like just I can't even describe it. It just sucks. It
It
really
really
just
does,
sucks.
dude. It
Being a
does.
Bengals fan right now just sucks.
Yeah, and it
And
really hasn't ever not sucked except for, like, 2 years.
we had a 2 year we had 2 good years.
Yeah, yeah, we
And
did.
I mean, if you would have told me in 2022, hey, you're not going to make the playoffs for the next 3 years, and Joe Burrow is probably not going to be your quarterback in the next 5, I'd be
I'd have
like,
been like,
dude,
"Dude, what?"
are you crazy?
Yeah, we
And
had a
that's the reality we're
squad.
living in right now.
We had a squad those 2 years. That was a good football team. That was the best football team in the franchise history.
Yeah. And
And
they
the very next year, they were
wasted it
gone.
away.
The very next year, they were gone.
It's truly, truly unbelievable. But I think that's gonna wrap it up for us today before we go on for 2 hours and, just completely lose our minds. We want to keep some of our sanity. Um, but yeah, this organization is a piece of crap and they always will be, and it's foolish of us to think anything would ever change.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to leave you guys with. Thank you all for watching. If you stuck with us this whole time, let us know if you agree, if you feel the same as we do. I'm sure most of you do. But we're going to continue to make these videos, maybe, unless we just completely stop. We might be like that Panthers podcast that just the team was so bad they just stopped doing it. We might have to come to that at some point. But I do like
We're
talking about
gonna
the
get to that
Bengals, but
point.
we talk about the same thing all the time. I think we laughed about this a few times, but I think on this channel we have talked positively about the Bengals maybe twice. So,
Because we started this
so
did we start in 23 or did we start in 24?
we started last year,
Okay,
like
so yeah.
like week 1 of last year.
Yeah, so we have not really
So
said
it's
anything
been
good.
no, not really. So it's been maybe we're the problem. Maybe if we stop doing this, they might wise up. But
I guess, I don't know. We'll just have to we'll have to deal
well,
with the
we're on
Patriots.
to the draft season, my favorite part of the NFL offseason. So we'll do a million mock drafts and say who we think they should take. They're not going to take any of the guys that we say, and
Nope.
it'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll have a good time.
But
Until draft night
yeah,
comes
we'll have a
around,
good time.
we'll be very angry.
Fantasizing about this team actually being good.
Yeah.
But
We
the
can just
pipe
run it
dream.
on Madden.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the closest we're ever going to get to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Just playing Madden. All right. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Maybe. Peace.